Hi, I'm Rich Miller. At Virtua, we believe citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support healthcare programming produced by the CAUCUS Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, Virtua, Partners for Health Foundation, partnering to make our communities healthier, better places to live. QUALCARE, Inc., a managed care company administering health plans that care about your health care. Johnson & Johnson, Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities. And by ADP, a comprehensive provider of human resources technology and services. Promotional support provided by Meadowlands Regional Chamber, building essential connections that drive business growth. And by bestofnj.com, covering all New Jersey has to offer.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio here in the heart of Lincoln Center. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome Peter Wilderotter, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. Welcome.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
By the way, you know public broadcasting well, don't you?
Yeah, I worked for WNYC for 6 years in the early part of this century.
Helping to raise money.
Helping to raise money.
We still do that.
We still
We never stop doing
You've
that.
got probably a couple of tote bags in your closet.
Yeah, fighting the good cause.
Yeah.
Speaking of good causes, this foundation, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, extraordinary. Talk about Christopher and Dana Reeve first, who they were, why they matter so much, and the work of this foundation, why it's so important.
Yeah, I think we tell the story of spinal cord work the way we tell the story of history, BC and AD, before Christopher and after Dana. And before Chris, there really wasn't that much hope. You were, if your family, if you yourself had a spinal cord injury, you were met by a doctor in a hospital and essentially said, here's your chair, here's your medications, here's what you can get used to and what the state will provide. And oh, by the way, in sort of a cruel afterthought, that which you get back in the first couple of weeks after the injury is what you can expect for the rest of your life. Chris changed that dogma completely. He actually had the audacity to talk about a cure and fought the good fight to raise awareness, to raise money, to get scientists to collaborate, to get the community to participate in that.
Excuse me, take a step back. Chris's accident was?
In 1995.
And put in context, I'm sorry for interrupting, Peter, but put in context for those who may not remember what and who Christopher was at the time in the American pop culture scene and why he was such an important figure.
Well, Chris was an extraordinarily well-known actor, and he was Superman. And
he literally played Superman.
He literally played Superman, and so it became the metaphor. You know, Superman got injured, and he used that celebrity. He actually used that celebrity prior to his injury. He founded an organization called the Creative Coalition because he believed that actors not only should lend their name to organizations, but they should be informed and educated. I actually met him in a previous organization because he was an advocate. The organization was Planned Parenthood. He was a big believer in a woman's right to choose and international family planning. And so he gave his celebrity, and he changed the game. He changed the way people think about spinal cord injury, certainly the support that the foundation that bears his name garnered. And while he was out talking about a cure, his wife really talked about a care and the fact that at the time of the injury, there was no place for people to turn to get the information that they needed, how to make their homes accessible, how to navigate this new life and what was coming down the road. And so she created our Paralysis Resource Center, which has helped over 70,000 people in those early stages, as well as any questions that they might have about the injury, information that they might need, a peer-to-peer network. They were extraordinary people.
So Christopher winds up dying what year?
He died in 2004.
And just a couple of years later,
literally 18 months later.
18 months later, Dana dies of lung cancer.
She dies of lung cancer.
Two people, vital, young, strong. This happens to them. They have young children.
Mm-hmm.
Who were the young children and what ages?
At the time of, I think, Matthew, I think, was 22 or 23. Alexandra was 21. And Will was 14 at the time of their passing. And in fact, Dana died in March of 2006. We had a board meeting the next day, and we nominated Matthew and Alexandra to our board. And they have been extraordinary board members and carry the vision of their folks on and to this day. And Will, when he graduated from college and started his career in broadcasting, joined our board and has been an extraordinary advocate to help us spread the word.
Put a spinal cord injury into its proper context for us, Peter, if you could. How many people in this country are dealing with spinal cord injuries?
1,275,000. That was done through a study that we did. There are 5.5 million that are that have some form of paralysis due to something that occurred in the central nervous system. Our resource center helps all living with paralysis. Our research is really focused on trying to find cures for spinal cord injury. And we've spent over $120 million in advancing therapies that we believe will get to the clinic very, very soon.
You know, a few months back, an extraordinary young man, former standout for the Rutgers University football team you know well.
Eric LeGrand.
So Eric LeGrand, a hero for me and for so many others. We actually wound up doing a full half hour with Eric. By the way, go on our website. Our team is about to put it up on the screen right now. SteveAdubato.org. All of our programs, our team is so great. That's what they do. They let folks know where you can find our programs. But check out Eric LeGrand. Eric was injured in the year 2010 at a Rutgers football game against Army. Eric tells his own story. He did the interview in his wheelchair, and he has to be one of the most positive, extraordinary role models. But he's made progress, and he continues to make progress, and he's connected to your organization, and he's very optimistic. Why?
He's optimistic because we know so much more now. In the early days, we believed there was no science, there was no research. So because of the pioneers and the organization, the American Paralysis Association that existed before Chris was injured, they funded a lot of the basic science that took us to where we are now. And Eric is optimistic because he's part of our Neuro Recovery Network, which is treadmill.
Neuro Recovery Network.
Right, and we have a site right at the Kessler Foundation in West Orange where Chris was treated, and Eric goes there, and it's treadmill training where they suspend Eric, and they really rework his legs because the spinal cord has a memory, and it re-engages and reignites that which is going on. So he's very, very optimistic.
And by the way, go back to the Kessler Foundation because they're not only a supporter of some of the public programming, public television programming we do, but we also moderate a whole range of conferences on work that Kessler is doing. But I have some of the work they're doing is groundbreaking, and I'm struck by the progress, the science there, the research there, which has me seeing things I never thought were possible. People are able to walk that we never thought were able to.
That's correct. Yeah. A lot of that is due to technology. You know, and they were a funder of one of the early patients that we had in what is becoming our big idea, where one implants a off-the-shelf Medtronic device used for pain. Medtronic, the company. And this device goes above the dura of the spine where the injury was and excites those neurons that have been silent for a long time and reignites and creates those pathways. And we're seeing people get bladder function back, temperature control, extraordinary things that heretofore would never be anticipated. So Eric is very optimistic and has every right to be optimistic. He has a smile that would fill this room, and that optimism. And he reminds us very much of Chris as his mom, who's a member of our team now.
Eric's mom.
Reminds us of Dana.
Let me ask you this, in a couple minutes we have left. Some of the misconceptions that many of us have about those who are dealing with spinal cord injuries, who are dealing with paralysis. A, that we think that there's very limited progress. And again, every case is different. Every individual has a different case. But that we're so pessimistic, some of us, and I mean metaphorically, I mean a lot of folks out there. That's one. But what else do we need to know about spinal cord injury and its future?
I think we need to know that disabled doesn't mean unabled, and so that we have a quality of life program. We've given over $20 million in grants to local organizations, teams that want to, so that individuals with disabilities can participate in sports and things along those lines. Wheelchair ballroom dancing, making the Bear Mountain accessible so that those in chairs can get to the summit. Making gardens accessible so that people can fully participate. I think the real misconception is that we don't know, when we see somebody in a wheelchair, we don't know how to interact and connect with that person. We should just go up and talk to them and ask them how they're doing and ask them about their injury, and they will be willing to, and ask them what their dreams and aspirations are, because they have them and they will succeed. Maybe their dreams were somewhat changed when that injury occurred.
As Eric said,
but Eric has a career in broadcasting. Chris acted from the chair. He taught his son how to ride a bike from the chair. And so that is the message that we need to
It's so interesting you say that. Eric Legrand told us, yeah, he did want to play in the NFL, but since that was not possible, he wanted to be the best broadcaster he could be. And he focused on what, check this out, trust me, it's a powerful interview. He said he wanted to focus on what he could do, not on what he was not able to do, and be the best at what he could do. Real quick, if I could get you to talk about this, the emotional and psychological piece for those who are dealing with spinal cord injuries. How do you help folks deal with that side of the equation?
We have people like Karen LeGrand, we have people like Dana Reeve, and we've created a peer-to-peer network that aligns someone who has had a similar injury. That's how we got to Eric. That's what Chris would do. He would read about somebody, he would hear about somebody, he would pick the phone up and call them, and that's a life-changing call to get a call from Christopher Reeve. And the foundation continues to do that.
How do you raise your money?
Day in and day out. We raise our money through events. We raise our money through Team LeGrand. We raise our money through direct response. People can go to our website and give a gift online, ChristopherReeve.org. And we need it, and we'll put it to great use. As
a student of leadership, as folks know, I often ask the #1 leadership lesson great leaders like yourself have learned. What's the #1 leadership lesson you've learned so far? I think the leadership lesson that I've learned came from my background. There were 3 things that my parents told me. I either had to be a priest, a lawyer, and go to St. Benedict's. So I went to St. Benedict's because I wasn't smart enough or holy enough to do the first 2. St. Benedict's Prep in Newark. Where my son teaches religion and theology right
I'm on the board, and and your dad was on the board with us.
That's right.
And the leadership lesson of St. Benedict's is its motto. Whatever hurts my brother hurts me. And we're in this all together, and that's what we have to deliver.
Well, that's what the Benedictines taught, and Father Edwin Lays, one of our leaders and heroes.
That's a hero.
Yeah. Peter, thank you for joining us, the president and CEO of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, extraordinary organization. And check out Eric LeGrand. Good stuff. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
To watch more one-on-one with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
My name is Jazzy. I have leukemia.
I'm Catherine, and I have thyroid cancer.
My name is Zach, and my older brother Lucas was diagnosed with brain cancer when I was 9 years old.
I'm the director of the Family Support Program for Friends of Karen. We provide support from the time the child's diagnosed
My little brother's name is Folahan, and he has a blood disorder called sickle cell.
Our goal really is to make a family's life as, it's never easy,
chocolate milk?
but as manageable and as normal as possible when they're dealing with the critical illness of one of their children.
It's a great organization, and the executive director is with us right here. We're honored at Public Broadcasting to welcome Judith Factor, who's the executive director of Friends of Karen. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
Karen McGinnis, 16 years of age from Westchester County, diagnosed with a rare disease. Talk about her and the organization.
Well, the organization was founded by a woman named Sheila Peterson. She was just a kind neighbor who wanted to help her friend bring home her terminally ill daughter to live out the end of her. That was Karen. That was Karen McGinnis.
What year was that? Back in the 70s, late 70s?
That was 1978.
Right.
Karen would be in her 50s now, and I'm still in touch with Karen's mom. And Sheila just wanted to help them bring Karen home. So she said, she was the original social media person. She promoted Karen's plight in the newspaper, and kind people in the northern Westchester community who knew Karen and didn't know Karen, but just were compassionate and wanted to help, contributed about $36,000, and that paid for Karen's round-the-clock care for the 11 months that she lived. And Sheila saw the impact on Karen's family's life. She said when you provide emotional and financial support to families with a catastrophically ill child, then they have more time to love.
That was Sheila Peterson.
That was Sheila Peterson.
Who helped her found it. Now today, describe the organization, because it's vast. I live over in New Jersey, and there are 3 hospitals in New Jersey with children. You said pediatric oncology programs. There are hospitals in Connecticut. There are hospitals in New York. So it's the tri-state region, correct?
Correct. We help about 600, I think in 2015, 669 families that had 1,010 siblings. So that was over 1,600 children that we supported.
How do you help?
We do everything. We look at every family's different. Every family has their own story. And I think that's one of the great things about Friends of Karen. We meet a family where they are. Of course, illness is the great equalizer. But primarily the families come to Friends of Karen through the social workers at the hospitals. And we work with every major hospital in the tri-state area that has pediatric oncology.
What do people need? Let's talk about the money first.
Well, I was looking at our statistics today. About 56% of our families have incomes below $35,000, and more than a quarter below $20,000. So imagine annual income. So many families come to us with a financial need. And we look at the impact of the illness on the family's income. About 90% of families have some employment interruption when they have a sick child. And we have many families that are just single parents. So you can imagine if you have an ill child and you want to be by their side.
I'm sorry, explain the cost, because you say, could you imagine? I'm trying to right now, and I want people to understand.
The average cost of a child having cancer is about $500,000. That's what it costs. Cancer is a very expensive illness.
$500,000?
Yes, it is. You know, in many families, we look at, families are just making it, and we look at what we can do. So we pay rent, mortgage. We get them stabilized, especially if a family comes to us soon after their child is diagnosed. Sometimes they don't come to us till their child has relapsed. Sometimes they don't come to seek our help. It's very hard for people to ask for help, and maybe not until their child is almost at end of life. And we come in with each family has a social worker that's assigned to them, a very skilled professional, so that becomes almost like a member of their family. And they visit them in their homes or in the hospital, and they get to know them, and they do what they can for each family, whether it's paying their mortgage, providing rent, helping with hospital bills. It may be helping them access other support, maybe getting them on Medicaid for ill children, whatever is available to them. Most people don't know. Well, we have a sibling support program.
What does that mean?
What it means is that when a brother or a sister has cancer, or sometimes we have kids with brain tumors or heart transplants, I mean, you can imagine, we say life-threatening illness. A parent is absent from the home for long periods of time. Kids could be in the hospital for 6 months, 8 months, or more. There's no parent at home. A child is neglected. Sometimes a child feels guilty and thinks they created cause.
They need help.
Oh, hugely.
Just stay right there. We're going to actually run a clip about the support program for, it's actually called the Sibling Support Program.
We do.
Let's take a look at Friends of Karen.
And I'll never forget Barry's saying, is my sister gonna die? And not realizing that an 11-year-old would even think about that or know about that.
We come in with our sibling support program and raise awareness.
Every Saturday, Melinda came in.
She bonded with Jake.
It was amazing, his attitude after Melinda left.
What we've learned in working with families is that the siblings are just as much affected by the illness emotionally as the ill child is affected physically.
Talk to us. What do we see?
We're seeing what Friends of Karen does is we look at the impact of the illness on the whole family. And the brothers and sisters are deeply affected, sometimes even more so, when all the attention is on the ill child. They're neglected. They're the ones, the parent doesn't intend to, but by necessity, they have to spend time with their ill child. So our team of we have child life specialists and expressive art therapists who come in and work with the kids and help them understand the illness and help them develop coping skills. And part of what we do is we talk about family communication. We help parents talk to their kids. Sometimes they can't even get the word cancer out of their mouth, or culturally it may not be appropriate, or they don't want to worry the kids. So we are there and providing, we're like best friends.
Let me ask you, speaking of best friends, you've been in the not-for-profit business. You've been involved in another very well-known national nonprofit before this. If you could, I'll put you on the spot and share with us a particular situation that has had a lasting impact on you, a family, a circumstance, a situation that you say, I know I'm with the right organization.
Well, Friends of Karen is an incredible organization because we have an impact on someone's life every single day, multiple times a day. I'll tell you about what was the most difficult situation we ever had, or at least in my experience. And we had a situation where a child was diagnosed with leukemia and was on one floor at Sloan Kettering, and her dad was on a different floor at Sloan Kettering.
Is this Adina?
Adina. This is Adina.
Adina Berkowitz.
Yep, Adina. And the dad passed away in February, and Adina was terminally ill. Yep, that's Adina. That's Adina Berkowitz. And I never had the privilege of meeting her, but she always had a smile. And there's a picture of her brother, Justin. And Justin died unexpectedly right before Adina, a few days before him. The brother.
The brother?
The brother of unknown circumstances. And there's Paula, their mom, and she lost her family her husband and her 2 children within a 4-month period. And Friends of Karen was there for her the whole way. And it was really the only time I ever saw the director of our family support program, who's an incredible professional and really a rock, lose it. But Paula Berkowitz is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. She picked herself up. She started a special fund at Friends of Karen called the Adina's Angels Fund.
Adina's Angels. By the way, if someone goes onto your website, can they find a connection to Adina's Angels? I'm sorry.
They can find a connection.
We try to connect people.
They can. They can find a connection to the Adina's Angel Fund.
Your site's up right now, so.
And Paula has every year since Adina died has had a special event and has raised funds. She's raised about $250,000 for other families, particularly to help brothers and sisters. So this is a woman who, you know, if I ever had anything to complain about, I would think again, I don't know how she gets out of bed in the morning, but her commitment to helping other families is phenomenal. And for me, that inspires me every single day. And there are so many people like that. You realize what the strength is of the human spirit. It's amazing.
Speaking of strength in the human spirit, you understand leadership in life in ways that some people may not. And I'm fascinated by this question. And people who watch One-on-One know I ask this question of a lot of people. Put you on the spot, never told you I was going to ask you this.
Okay.
The number one leadership lesson you have learned in your work?
To be passionate and to be inspiring. For me to bring my passion so that I can inspire others, both my staff, my board, our supporters, to realize that what they do really makes a difference. And I think that is my number one lesson.
Got to bring a passion.
Got to bring a passion. You got to feel it here. You got to feel it here. And it's easy.
Here's not enough?
No, it's got to be here. It's got to be authentic, genuine, and I really believe in what we do. We are an amazing organization. I always say we're the greatest organization. I hope you never need to know. But if you need friends at Karen, you really need us by your side.
Judith Factor. Judith Factor is executive director of a great organization, and we hope you never need to know. Friends of Karen. Thank you so much. Keep up the important work.
Thanks so much.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, Virtua, Partners for Health Foundation, QUALCARE Inc., Johnson & Johnson, Kessler Foundation, and by ADP. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
At Virtua, we don't cut the quad tendon for knee replacement, so you don't have to cut anything you love to do. It's what we don't cut that counts. The Virtua Joint Replacement Institute. Visit GotMyLifeBack.org today.